I moved here for peace and quiet. That's what the brochure for Crestview Meadows promised. It's what the realtor, a woman with a smile so plastic it looked like it would squeak, promised. "You'll love the harmony of the community, Mr. Leo," she'd said. What I got was a neighborhood that looks like it was decorated by a depressed dentist. The color palette is unforgiving. The official HOA-approved spectrum runs from aggressive beige to judgmental taupe. My house is insipid cream. The house next to me is morning fawn. It's a sea of beigeness, a khaki purgatory. I'm a remote graphics designer. I spend all day manipulating vibrant colors, and then I look out my window and my retinas just sigh. I left the city for this. I left the 4 a.m. sirens, the rent that required a co-signed kidney, and the apartment neighbor who was definitely 100% building a pipe organ. I wanted a yard. I wanted a patio. I wanted to hear a bird that wasn't a pigeon trying to mug a hot dog. And for 3 weeks, I had it. My new life was simple. I'd wake up, make coffee, and at 7 a.m. I'd take my yoga mat to my own back patio. It's a nice patio, fenced in, faces a small patch of community green space, which is just a ditch they're legally required to mow. I'm not a yoga master. I'm a 30-something guy trying to touch his toes and unpretzel his spine from sitting in a desk chair all day. I'm not loud. I'm not naked, much to the disappointment of, well, probably no one. The most offensive sound I make is my ujjayi breath, which, okay, sounds a bit like a contented sea turtle. But it's my patio. My harmony lasted exactly 3 weeks. On a Tuesday, mid-tree pose, and let's be honest, it was more of a slightly wobbly shrub pose, I sensed a presence. It was Brenda. Brenda is our HOA president. Brenda doesn't walk. She patrols. She's a woman in her late 50s who wears a visor indoors and has a clipboard that I'm convinced is a tactical weapon. She was inspecting the perimeter of my property, which meant she was standing just on the other side of my low, purely decorative hedge, staring at me. She was accompanied by Sir Reginald, her miniature poodle, a dog that looks like it's 90% nervous system and 10% malice. I held the pose. Maybe if I didn't move, her vision would be based on movement, like a T-Rex. "Good morning, Leo," she said. Her voice sounds like someone filing a lawsuit. I wobbled, planting my foot on the mat. "Morning, Brenda, Sir Reginald." The dog yapped, a sound like a tiny, angry zipper. "We're just so thrilled you're acclimating to the neighborhood," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were calculating the precise distance my fence was from the property line. "Just finding my balance," I said, trying to be pleasant. Of course. She tapped her pen on the clipboard. "Here it comes. It's just, we've had some concerns from neighbors about unstructured physical displays." I blinked. "Unstructured? What now?" "Your calisthenics." She said the word like it was something you'd find growing on a shower curtain. "It can be distracting to the harmony of the community. We are, after all, a community of uniformity." I looked around. My patio is shielded on both sides by 6-foot vinyl fences. Color, sad oyster. The only person who could possibly see me was Mr. Henderson, 2 houses down, and he was 80 years old and spent his mornings watching bird feeders. "Distracting? I'm 50 yards from the next house, Brenda, and I'm facing my own fence. Who am I distracting? The gophers?" Her smile tightened. "The community guidelines, which you received at closing, are very clear about outdoor recreational activities being confined to designated areas." "You mean the patch of gravel next to the main road?" "We call it the community fitness zone," she snapped. You know, by the septic tank access point. It's for everyone's enjoyment. The smell is bracing. It's just something to keep in mind, Leo. She wasn't smiling at all now. She reached into her beige tote bag and pulled out a pamphlet. It was the HOA rulebook. A section was highlighted in neon pink. Section 4, Article B, Public Spaces and Visual Harmony. I'd suggest you review it. She turned, her visor catching the morning light, and marched off. Sir Reginald gave my hedge one last hateful yap. I stood there on my mat. My zen was gone. My aura was bruised. I hadn't even gotten to Shavasana. This, I thought, is how supervillains are made. I tried to be good. I really did. For the next 2 days, I did my yoga inside. My yoga studio was a 3-foot-wide patch of laminate flooring between my couch and my TV. It was cramped. It smelled like last night's takeout. And during Downward Dog, I was staring directly at a dust bunny the size of a hamster. It was, in a word, depressing. The whole point of moving to the burbs was not being able to touch all 4 walls of a room at the same time. On Friday, I caved. It was 70 degrees, the sun was out, and that ditch-mowing bird was singing its heart out. Screw it, I mumbled. It's my patio. I pay the mortgage. I pay the insane HOA dues. I'm going outside. I got through my entire routine. Sun salutations, a few warrior poses. I even nailed that crow pose for a solid 3 seconds before collapsing. I was feeling great. I was in Shavasana, dead man's pose, lying on my back, soaking in the sun, finally feeling the peace I'd paid for. That's when I heard the click-clack of the mail slot. I finished, cooled down, and went inside. There it was, a crisp, cream-colored envelope on my floor. Not junk mail. This was the expensive card stock, the kind they use for cease and desist orders and awkward wedding invitations. My name was typed. My address was typed. The return address was just Crestview Meadows HOA, Architectural Review Committee. I opened it. Dear Mr. Leo, it began. Oh, we're using my full name. This is serious. It has come to the attention of the Architectural Review Committee, ARC, that your property, Lot 114, is in violation of the Crestview Meadows covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Blah, 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 legalese. Here we go. Specifically, you are in violation of Section 4, Article B. All outdoor spaces, including but not limited to patios and yards visible from any community-owned property, must maintain a uniform and harmonious aesthetic, free of public performance or disruptive athletic exhibitions. I read that line twice. Public performance? I said to my empty kitchen. I was in sweatpants I got from a 3-for-1 sale. They have a yogurt stain on the knee. Who is paying to see this performance? It got better. Your continued use of the patio space for these activities constitutes a public nuisance, as defined by the board. Furthermore, disruptive athletic exhibitions are not in keeping with the visual harmony of the community. Disruptive exhibition? I fell over. Twice. This wasn't an exhibition. It was a cautionary tale. And then the kicker. A fine of $50 has been assessed to your account. This fine is due within 30 days. Failure to cease and desist all unapproved outdoor athletic exhibitions will result in further sanctions, including but not limited to additional fines and a lien placed on your property. We thank you for your immediate cooperation in restoring the harmony of our community. It was signed, The Board. Not even a name, just The Board. Like they were the High Council of the Borg. $50. $50 for stretching. In my own backyard. I grabbed my phone and speed-dialed Chad. Chad is my oldest friend. He's the physical, spiritual, and intellectual opposite of Zen. He's a CrossFit bro who thinks Namaste is a type of protein shake. He lives in a different suburb, one with no HOA, which he brings up constantly. He picked up on the second ring, a grunt, and the sound of a massive weight hitting the floor. "Bro, Leo, what's up, man? You hitting the gym?" "No, Chad, I'm reading my mail. The HOA just fined me." "What? For what? Did you paint your mailbox the wrong shade of oppressive gray?" "No, they fined me $50 for doing yoga on my patio." There was a long silence, then a what that probably registered on a seismograph. "Bro, no, that's interference. That's unconstitutional." "I don't think the Constitution covers downward dog, Chad, but they called it a public performance and a disruptive athletic exhibition." "Disruptive? Bro, I'll show him disruptive. We should go over there. I'll bring my kettlebells. We can do some real disruptive exhibitions. We'll flip my truck tire on your lawn. Let him find that." "Chad, I don't want to flip a tire on my lawn. I just want to stretch without being fined by the Beige Inquisition." "That's where you're wrong, man. This isn't about stretching anymore. This is about freedom. They said public performance, right?" "Yeah. So, you gotta give him a performance. A real one. We could get a boom box, play some aggressive yoga music, like, I don't know, Eye of the Tiger. You can't fine a guy for motivation, bro. It's un-American." I told Chad I'd think about it and hung up. His idea was, as usual, terrible. A boombox? Eye of the Tiger? I'd be fined and probably evicted before the chorus hit. But I looked at the letter again. Public performance. Harmonious aesthetic. A performance. She wanted a performance. She wanted harmony. My fingers started tapping on my laptop. "She wants harmony," I mumbled to myself, a slow, evil grin spreading across my face. "Oh, I'll give her harmony. I'll give her so much harmony she'll be begging for a leaf blower." My Google search history started to get specific. Yoga instructors near me. Group meditation events. Outdoor sound permits, USA. Things that are technically peaceful, but feel aggressive. And then I found it. The perfect, beautiful, absurd idea. Live traditional Indian musicians for hire. I clicked the first link. Ravi's Ragas, Serenity for your event. I picked up the phone. The phone rang twice, then was answered by a voice so smooth and calm, it made me feel like I was the one breaking the law. Ravi's Ragas, this is Ravi. How may I facilitate your event? I cleared my throat, suddenly feeling like a teenager prank calling a monastery. Hi, Ravi. My name is Leo. I have an event, and I need harmony. Harmony? Yes. This is our specialty, Ravi said, his voice like warm honey. We play many weddings, garden parties, meditation retreats. Very serene. What is the occasion? An anniversary? It's a wellness gathering, a community harmony event. It's very high stakes. High stakes wellness, Ravi repeated slowly, as if tasting the words. Intriguing. And where is this venue? My backyard, in Crestview Meadows, this Saturday. Ah, a garden party. Wonderful. How many guests? About 20, I said, pulling a number out of thin air. Maybe 25. Listen, I need presence. I need vibrations. I need something that really carries. There was a long, thoughtful pause on the other end. Vibrations. Yes, you are looking for a classical raga. For a 2-hour session, with amplification, that will be $400. This includes my travel and a non-refundable deposit. I didn't even blink. Sold. Cash. I'll pay you in full on the day. Excellent. We are confirmed. What time shall the harmony commence? 9 a.m. sharp, I said. And Ravi? Can you play something transcendental? All my ragas are transcendental, he replied, with no trace of arrogance, just fact. But for 9 a.m., I will play Raga Bhairav. It is a morning raga. It is awakening. Perfect, I said, a shiver running down my spine. Brenda is going to love being awakened. I hung up, buzzing. Step 1 was complete. I had my harmony. Now I needed my public performance. I opened my phone and started a new group text. I titled it, Spiritual Compliance Protest. I added every friend I had within a 50-mile radius. Chad, my lawyer friend, Maya, my old college roommate, Mark, my weird but in a good way friend, Sarah, about 30 people in total. I typed out the message, to spiritual compliance. Protest. Subject, urgent and hilarious. Hey everyone, so my HOA fined me $50 for doing yoga on my patio. They called it a disruptive athletic exhibition, so I'm hosting a harmonious community gathering to show them what a real exhibition looks like. This Saturday, my place, 9 a.m. sharp. I have hired a professional live sitar player. I need 20+ people to show up and do the most peaceful, passive-aggressive yoga of their lives all over my backyard. Confusingly spiritual clothing, tie-dye, yoga pants, weird robes is highly encouraged. Bring a mat if you have one. If not, I'm buying a bunch. Mimosas and donuts will be provided. This is not a drill. This is about art and justice and annoying a woman named Brenda be there. I hit send and held my breath. The replies started flooding in within 60 seconds. Chad. I'm in, bro, a Sitar. That's so hardcore. I'll bring my kettlebells for a power yoga raga fusion. We'll call it Reiji Ah. Leo. No kettlebells, Chad. Just presence. And maybe don't grunt. Maya, the lawyer. Leo, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. You are actively antagonizing a board with fining power. I'm looking up your covenants right now. Oh my God. Section 4 is so vaguely worded it's completely unenforceable. This is beautiful. I'll be there at 8:45 with a notary and my own bottle of Veuve. I want a mimosa before we get the cease and desist. Sarah, the hippie. OMG, Leo, your chakra is finally opening. This is such powerful Sagittarian energy. This is a call from the universe. I'll bring my healing crystals and some special brownies. We can bless Brenda's aura from afar. Leo. Sarah, I love your energy. But please, please no special brownies. Not at 9 a.m. The cops might actually have a problem with that. Just bring the crystals. Mark, the cynic. 1. I have never done yoga. 2. I hate the suburbs. 3. I am 100% only coming to watch you get arrested. 4. Are the mimosas bottomless? If yes, I'll be your first disruptive exhibition. I'll even wear my old wrestling singlet. Leo. Mimosas are bottomless. Please, for the love of God, do not wear the wrestling singlet, or at least wear shorts over it. Greg and Tim, the couple. Brenda? Is she the one with the visor and the angry rat dog? We hate her. She fined us last month because our wind chimes were sonically aggressive. We are so in. We're bringing our own matching yoga outfits." The yes replies kept coming. By the end of the night, I had a confirmed headcount of 22 people. The Zen Vengers were assembling. My final stop was Discount Sporting Goods, a cavernous warehouse store that smelled like vulcanized rubber and regret. I went straight to the fitness aisle. They had yoga mats. They were on clearance. The only colors left were neon pink that will burn your retinas and aggressive lime green. "Perfect," I whispered. I bought all of them. 25 mats. "Big yoga class?" the cashier, a teenager who looked like he'd never seen the sun, asked. "Something like that," I said, loading the pile of neon foam into my cart. "Just restoring the harmony of the community." That night, I went to sleep with a smile on my face. I dreamed of sitars and beige houses, and a very, very confused look on Brenda's face. This was no longer about my $50. This was about principle. Saturday, 8:30 a.m. The day dawned bright and criminally pleasant. It was the perfect stage. I was on my third cup of coffee, my nerves buzzing, pacing my kitchen. I'd set up the mimosa bar on the patio table, a glorious Costco-sized spread, industrial vats of orange juice, a phalanx of Prosecco bottles, and a mountain of donuts. If we were going to be a public nuisance, we were going to be a well-catered public nuisance. At 8:31 a.m., a pristine white van pulled up to my curb. Ravi's Ragas was written on the side in elegant, flowing script. Ravi emerged. He was exactly as I'd pictured him, an oasis of calm. He was a man in his 60s, with a kind face, a magnificent white beard, and dressed in a beautiful white kurta. He looked around at the beige-on-beige landscape of Crestview Meadows, taking it all in. "Mr. Leo," he said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm and peaceful. "Ravi, welcome to the, wellness center," I said. He began to unload his equipment, and I realized how serious he was. This wasn't just a guy with a guitar. He had a large, ornate rug. He had a small, high-quality amplifier. He had a microphone. And then he unzipped a large, padded case and revealed the sitar. It was gorgeous, a long, intricate instrument of polished wood and strings that looked ancient and powerful. He set up on my back patio, facing the community green space, his back to my house. He mic'd the sitar, plugged the amp into my outdoor outlet, and sat down on his rug. He looked at the beige houses surrounding us. "This is a very muted neighborhood, Mr. Leo," he said, tuning a string. "Oh, the acoustics are great, Ravi," I said, handing him a coffee. "The sound just bores right into the drywall. You're going to be a huge hit." He nodded, not quite understanding, but ready to perform. "The Raga Bhairav it is. It shall awaken." At 8:45 a.m., the Zen Vengers arrived. All at once, it was a glorious, chaotic mess, and Chad, true to form, was in head-to-toe Lululemon, already stretching his quads in my driveway. "Bro, this is epic! The vibe! It's so vibrational!" Maya strode in, already in a blazer and yoga pants, phone to her ear. "No, Frank, I don't care if the deposition is Monday. You need to refile the 30B. 1 second." She pulled the phone away. "Leo, I brought a decibel meter app, just in case. Where are the mimosas?" Sarah drifted in, wearing what looked like a collection of scarves, and immediately began placing small, shiny crystals on my fence posts. "To cleanse the perimeter of negative energy," she whispered. Mark stomped in. saw the donuts, and grunted. Okay, this is slightly better than I expected. He did wear the wrestling singlet, but thankfully, he had cargo shorts on over it. Greg and Tim arrived in matching, skin-tight, neon pink unitards. We're ready to harmonize, Leo. One by one, they piled into my backyard, a circus of neon mats, confusing outfits, and brunch-fueled enthusiasm. I had 22 people. My lawn was a sea of aggressive lime green and blinding pink. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, I gave Ravi a nod. Ravi nodded back. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and struck the first chord. The sound was stunning. It wasn't loud in a rock and roll way. It was penetrating. It was a complex, beautiful, unavoidable cascade of notes that cut right through the suburban quiet. The amplifier sent the twang and drone of the sitar vibrating through the air, across the lawns, and, I hoped, directly into Brenda's bedroom window. It was the most beautiful, aggressive F.U. I'd ever heard. The reaction was immediate. First, 2 houses down, Mr. Henderson's blinds snapped open so hard I thought they'd break. Mrs. Gable, directly across the ditch, came out to get her paper, froze mid-bend, and just stared. She looked at my house, at the 22 people in varying states of yoga, at the serene man playing a giant amplified instrument, and her face went through about 5 different stages of confusion. My friends were into it. Chad was at the front, attempting a headstand. Maya was sipping a mimosa in a perfect lotus pose, dictating a legal threat into her phone. Sarah was leading a group in what she called ecstatic humming. Mark was just sitting on a mat, eating a Boston cream donut, giving me a slow, impressed nod. We were 5 minutes in. The sitar was reaching a beautiful, transcendental crescendo. And then, she arrived. Brenda's front door slammed open. She was not in her uniform visor and polo. She was in a fuzzy pink bathrobe, her hair in a messy bun, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Sir Reginald was yapping at her heels, spinning in tiny circles. She didn't use the sidewalk. She marched straight across her lawn and my lawn, her slippers soaked in morning dew. She stopped at the edge of the patio, her hands clenched. "Leo!" she shrieked. The sitar music swirled around her, making the scene completely surreal. I calmly moved from Warrior 2 into a respectful Namaste pose. "Brenda, good morning. Welcome. Glad you could join. Our harmonious community gathering, just a little structured physical display for our wellness. We even have traditional harmonious music, per the guidelines." "What is this?" she screamed. "This is a festival. This is a party." "It's a raga, Brenda," I said calmly. Chad, from the back, still upside down in his headstand, shouted, "It's awakening, Brenda. Feel the vibrations." "This is a noise violation," she sputtered, pointing a shaking finger at Ravi. That banjo is unapproved." And that's when she lost. Ravi stopped playing. Instantly. The music cut out, leaving a ringing silence that was somehow louder than the sitar. Ravi, the calmest man in the universe, stood up from his rug. He looked deeply, profoundly offended. "Ma'am," he said, his voice quiet but carrying, the microphone still on. "I must respectfully correct you. This," he gestured to his instrument, "is a sitar. It is an instrument of classical antiquity, the vessel of the raga, with a history spanning 700 years. He took a step closer. "It is not a banjo." You could hear a pin drop. Brenda was purple. She was outflanked by civility. This is illegal, she finally managed. I assure you, ma'am, Raga Bhairav is quite legal, Ravi said, sitting back down. I am calling the police, Brenda shrieked. I am calling everyone. I am calling the mayor. You will be shut down. She spun around, her bathrobe flapping, and stormed back to her house, Sir Reginald yapping in angry agreement. My friends looked at me. I looked at them. Okay, I said, picking up a mimosa. Phase 1 complete. Drink up, everyone. We've got cops coming. Let's make sure we're all extra peaceful. I nodded to Ravi. He smiled, and with a flourish began an even more complex, and perhaps slightly louder, raga. It took about 30 minutes for the squad car to arrive. 30 beautiful, sitar-filled minutes. We'd really leaned into the wellness part. Sarah was leading a guided meditation on my lawn. Breathe in the harmony, she was saying. Breathe out the beige. Chad had, against my explicit instructions, started doing kettlebell yoga, which was just him swinging a kettlebell while Ravi played. But he was in the back corner. The rest of us were just vibing. We were sitting, stretching, drinking mimosas. It was, honestly, the best Saturday morning I'd had in years. Then the blue and reds flashed down the street. A single squad car rolled up, not with sirens, just with a quiet, weary authority. It parked right in front of my house. Brenda was on her lawn instantly, marching over to the car before the officers were even out. She was dressed now, in her full HOA President battle armor. Beige polo, beige visor, beige clipboard. 2 officers got out. One was older, with a mustache that had seen things, and a name tag that read Miller. He looked exhausted. The other was a rookie, looked about 20. Name tag Baines. Baines was trying, and failing, to hide a look of profound confusion. Brenda started in on them immediately, her voice high and tight. Officers, thank God you're here. This is an illegal event. It's a rave. He hired a band. It's a noise violation, a public nuisance. They're trespassing on the harmony. Officer Miller just held up one giant stop hand. He looked at Brenda. He looked at my house. He looked at the 20 people quietly stretching on neon mats. He looked at Ravi, who was playing a lovely flowing melody. He looked at Chad, swinging a kettlebell. His eyes lingered on Chad. He sighed. It was a sigh that said, I missed breakfast for this. He walked onto my lawn. Baines followed, his eyes wide. Folks, Miller said, his voice a gravelly rumble. Really? 9:30 on a Saturday? We got a call about... He flipped open his notepad. A large-scale disruptive noise event with a possible cult affiliation. Brenda, behind him, nodded frantically. It's a cult, I told them. I stood up from my mat, walked over, and gave them my most non-threatening, I pay my taxes smile. Good morning, officer. Leo, I'm the owner. It's just a yoga class with my friends. We're just being healthy. A yoga class, Brenda shrieked, shoving her way forward. He hired live entertainment officer. That's a band. You need a permit for a band, and they're drinking. It's a rave. Officer Miller turned to me. Sir, is this a band? Are you charging admission? Is this a commercial event? No, sir, I said, keeping my voice as calm as Ravi's music. This is Ravi. I motioned to Ravi, who stopped playing and nodded politely. He's our spiritual guide. He's providing harmonious ambiance for our, religious gathering. Ravi, sensing his cue, stood up. Good morning, officers. The Raga Bhairav is often played in temples. It is a morning prayer to invoke a feeling of profound peace and devotion. Officer Miller stared at Ravi. He looked back at Brenda. Ma'am, he says it's religious. It is not! Officer Baines, the rookie, chimed in. Sounds pretty peaceful to me, Sarge. Kind of nice, actually. What is that thing? It is a sitar, Ravi said, delighted. A classical instrument from... I don't care what it is. Brenda was vibrating. It's a noise violation. It is loud. It's unapproved. Officer Miller pinched the bridge of his nose. Brenda, I don't have an approved music list. My job is the town ordinance. Is this music breaking the decibel ordinance? And that's when Maya, my lawyer, stood up from her lotus pose, mimosa in one hand, phone in the other. Actually, Officer Miller, it is not, she said, striding over. Her blazer and yoga pants combo gave her an air of chaotic authority. Maya, last name, I'm Mr. Leo's legal counsel. I've been monitoring the situation. According to Town Ordinance 11.4, the residential decibel limit before 10 p.m. is 65 dB. I'm running a certified meter app. She held up her phone. Ravi's beautiful. Harmonious sitar is clocking in at a steady 62 decibels. It's just acoustically unique. It's well within legal limits. It's technically quieter than Mr. Henderson's lawnmower, which he runs every Saturday at 8 a.m. Officer Miller looked at the app. He looked at Maya. He looked at me. A tiny, tiny smile quirked at the corner of his mustache. Well, Brenda, he said, turning back to her, they're not breaking any laws. They're on private property. They're under the decibel limit. And it's... He looked at us all. Yoga. But, the covenants! Brenda was desperate. She was actually waving her highlighted pamphlet at him. Section 4, Article B. It's a disruptive athletic exhibition. Officer Miller held up his hand again, and this time he did not look happy. Ma'am, the HOA is a civil matter. I am here for criminal matters. You are calling 911 because your neighbor is stretching in a way you find disharmonious. That is not a police matter. Do not call 911 again unless there is an actual emergency. He looked back at me. Sir, ma'am. He nodded at Maya. You all have a nice day. Please, try to be less transcendental. We'll do our best, officer, I said. Miller and Baines walked back to their car. As Baines got in, he gave Ravi a thumbs up. Sounds cool, man. The squad car pulled away. It was silent. My 22 friends were all staring. Ravi was staring. Brenda was left on the sidewalk, her pamphlet fluttering in her hand. Her face was a terrifying shade of red. She looked at me. She looked at my friends. She let out a sound, a high-pitched, strangled noise of pure defeat, and she stormed back to her house, slamming the door so hard I thought Sir Reginald would go airborne. A beat passed. Then, from the back, Mark raised his mimosa. Well, I'm not getting arrested. I'm deeply disappointed. A huge cheer erupted from the yard. Chad did a kettlebell high kick. Greg and Tim hugged. I walked over to Ravi, who was already retuning. Ravi, I said, my friend, you were magnificent. Ravi smiled. The Raga Bhairav always awakens the spirit. I think you awakened something in Brenda, all right. How about a celebratory raga? Something peppy. Ravi's eyes lit up. Ah, yes, I believe a batiar is in order. The music started again, faster this time, and we went back to our party. The high from the Sitar Inn, as my friends had dubbed it, lasted all weekend. It was a massive, glorious success. I was a neighborhood legend. Mr. Henderson had walked over later that afternoon, after Brenda had apparently left in her car, peeling out of the driveway. He was a quiet man, and he just nodded at me. "That banjo music," he'd started. "Sitar," I corrected gently. "Right. That. It was the most interesting thing that's happened on this street in a decade. My wife, Ethel, she enjoyed it. Thought it was one of them world music festivals." "Glad you liked it, Mr. Henderson." "That Brenda," he shook his head. "She's a lot." "That she is, Mr. Henderson. That she is." But I knew it wasn't over. Brenda wasn't the type to accept defeat. She was the type to retreat, laminate new rules, and counterattack. The counterattack arrived on Monday. It was another cream-colored envelope. This one felt thicker, heavier. It felt like it was radiating pure spite. I opened it over the kitchen counter. My $50 fine was still there. But it had friends. "Dear Mr. Form, due to the events of Saturday, October 22nd, the board has held an emergency session to review the gross violations at Lot 114. The following additional fines have been assessed, effective immediately." My blood ran cold. Violation: unapproved large gathering, Sec 7C, activities deemed detrimental to the community quietude, $200,000. Violation: unapproved live entertainment, Sec 4D, amplified sound, musical or otherwise, without prior written board approval, $300. Violation: creating a public nuisance, as defined by the board, $500. I stared at the last one. As defined by the board. She'd just decided I was a nuisance and fined me $500. Total due, including initial fine, $1,050. $1,050. I wasn't laughing anymore. This had escalated from petty harassment to an outright financial shakedown. Detrimental to the community quietude? As defined by the board? She defined me as a public nuisance? I said out loud. The rage was cold and sharp. Oh, hell no. She wanted to play the game by her rules? She wanted to just invent violations? Fine. Two could play at that game. She was the president of the Architectural Review Committee. She was so concerned with the visual harmony and the community guidelines. Fine. Let's review some architecture. I grabbed my laptop. I wasn't Googling musicians this time. I Googled local contractors near me. Landscapers. Excavation services. I found a promising one. Gus's Gutters and Gravel. The website looked like it was made in 1998, which to me screamed authenticity. I called the number. A voice like pure gravel answered. Gus's, what do you need? Hi Gus, my name's Leo. I live in Crestview Meadows. I need a quote. Quote for what? Gutters? Gravel? Both? I'm thinking of putting in a water feature. A big one. Maybe a koi pond. But mostly I need a project. I need activity. On my lawn. Soon. Gus grunted. Don't do koi. Raccoons. It's a bloodbath. You want a dry rock zen garden. Less maintenance. More gravel. Big boulders. Very architectural. I almost dropped the phone. Gus, I think I love you. When can you be here? And this is a weird question. Do you own a backhoe? Do I own a backhoe? Son, I am a backhoe. I can be there tomorrow. 7 a.m. Just for a quote. Quotes are free. The noise, however, is complimentary. Gus, you're a poet. I'll see you at 7. Tuesday, 7 o'clock a.m. Sharp. I was in my kitchen, coffee in hand, waiting. The sun was just coming up, and then I heard it, a deep, seismic rumbling, a diesel engine that sounded like a dragon clearing its throat. A giant, mud-spattered flatbed truck pulled up, and on the back of it was the most beautiful, bright yellow backhoe I had ever seen. The truck's brakes hissed, doors slammed. I saw Gus, a short, broad man in overalls, and two guys who could only be named Moose and Skeeter. With a glorious clank and whir of hydraulics, Gus unloaded the backhoe onto the street. Brenda's door flew open. She was already in her visor. She must have been sleeping in it. "You cannot!" she shrieked, running onto her lawn. Sir Reginald was barking so hard he was practically doing backflips. "You do not have a permit for this. This is a major excavation. I am calling the cops again." Gus, who was chewing on what looked like an entire cigar, just spat. He wasn't scared of Brenda. Gus wasn't scared of anything. "Ma'am," he growled. "I'm here to give this gentleman a quote on a retaining wall. Got a call about erosion control." He gestured to the community ditch. "Your whole neighborhood's on a slope. You should be thanking him. He's being proactive." Brenda stopped. "Erosion? What?" I chose that moment to lean out my front door, sipping my coffee. "Morning, Brenda. Just being a good neighbor. Gus here says this whole area could have foundation issues without a proper retaining wall. Just looking out for the community harmony and the property values." Her eyes darted between me, Gus, and the backhoe. She was completely out of her depth. This wasn't a yoga mat. This was 3 tons of union-run heavy machinery. You are doing this just to harass me," she accused, pointing at me. "Brenda, I'm improving my property. Isn't that the whole point of the HOA? You should see the plans Gus and I are drawing up. I'm thinking boulders, large artistic boulders, very harmonious. You can't." "Gus," I said, "you mind checking the soil density? Just to, see if it's feasible?" Gus grinned, revealing a gold tooth. "You got it, boss." He climbed up into the driver's seat of the backhoe. He turned the key. The engine roared to life. It was a sound 1,000 times louder than the Sitar. It was a beautiful, industrial 7 a.m. symphony of diesel and power. Gus revved the engine. "Vroom!" Brenda shrieked, covered her ears, and grabbed her stupid dog. "Just gotta warm her up," Gus yelled over the din. "Gotta check the hydraulics." He raised the giant metal bucket, hiss, and slammed it down onto the pavement of the street. Clang! Brenda stumbled back, grabbed her dog, and stormed back into her house. The door slammed. The windows rattled. Gus cut the engine. The silence was deafening. He hopped down. "So, you really want this wall?" I looked at Brenda's house. Her blinds were snapped shut. "Nah, Gus, I think the quote was enough for today." What? Backhoe quote was the shot heard round the suburbs. Brenda was, for the first time, silent. The $1,050 fine just hung in the air. I didn't pay it. She didn't send a follow-up. It was a cold war until Friday. A new letter, not a fine. A summons. An emergency HOA board meeting has been called for Monday 7 p.m. at the Community Rec Center. Your attendance is mandatory to discuss the violations and outstanding fines at Lot 114. Failure to appear will result in the board ruling in absentia. This was it. The final boss. I walked into the rec center on Monday night. It smelled like stale coffee, folding chairs, and regret. Brenda was at a podium at the front, next to a projector screen. The board, 3 other residents who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, A tired-looking dad, a woman who was aggressively knitting, and a guy who just looked confused sat at a folding table. About 10 other neighbors were scattered in the audience. Mr. Henderson was there. Brenda gavelled the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the Leo problem. She clicked a button. A PowerPoint presentation fired up. The title slide actually said, "The Leo Problem, a threat to our property values." She proceeded to give a 10-minute speech that would have made a dictator blush. She showed grainy, zoomed-in photos, which she must have taken from her window, of my friends. A shot of Chad's kettlebell. A shot of Maya's mimosa. A blurry image of Ravi's sitar. She showed a photo of Gus's backhoe. It is a pattern, she declared, of escalating anarchy. He has brought noise, parties, alcohol, and now industrial machinery to our quiet streets. He has defied the board, he has mocked the covenants, and he has refused to pay his $1,050 in fines. The board must act. We must force compliance. I vote to place a lien on his property, effective immediately. She finished, breathing hard, and glared at me. Mr. Leo, do you have anything to say? I stood up. I walked to the podium. I didn't have a PowerPoint. Hi, everyone. Look, I'm Leo. I live at Lot 114. And, yeah, I did all that. And here's why. I looked at the board. 3 weeks ago, Brenda gave me a warning for doing yoga on my own patio. Then, I got a $50 fine for a public performance. I tried talking to Brenda. She didn't want to talk. She wanted to fine. So yeah, I continued. I invited some friends over. We listened to some beautiful classical Indian music. We were quiet, we were polite, and as Officer Miller himself told Brenda, we broke no laws. The music was under the decibel limit. In response, Brenda, I looked at the confused board members, just invented $1,000 in new fines. Fines for, I checked my notes, unapproved entertainment, and being a nuisance as defined by the board. This isn't about harmony, I said, my voice ringing out. This is about Brenda getting to be the boss of everyone. Brenda stood up. That is not, I'm not finished, I said. And she sat down, stunned. This is crazy. We all pay a lot of money to live here. And this board's real job is to maintain the pool and make sure the grass gets cut. It is not to act as a one-woman police state, fining people for living. Silence. Then, from the back, Mr. Henderson spoke up, his voice reedy but clear. Frankly, Brenda, that sitar music was the most interesting thing that's happened here in a decade. My wife and I enjoyed it. A woman 2 rows up chimed in. And my kids loved the yoga. They were trying it in the yard. I thought it was a community class. The tired-looking dad on the board looked at Brenda. He looked at the other board members. Brenda, did you really fine him $500 just because you decided he was a nuisance? Brenda sputtered. It's in the bylaws. The board has discretion. The guy on the board who looked confused suddenly looked angry. I'm on the board, Brenda. You didn't ask me. You didn't ask any of us. You just did it. The meeting descended into chaos. The board was arguing with Brenda. The neighbors were arguing with Brenda. The dad on the board finally banged the gavel. All in favor of tabling Mr. Leo's fines indefinitely, pending a full review of Brenda's emergency session? All 3 other board members raised their hands. Brenda's face was a masterpiece of incandescent rage. She was beaten. I just smiled, gave a little wave, and walked out of the rec center, whistling. It's been 2 months. The Great Sitar incident is now HOA legend. Brenda is, technically, still president. But she lost. She lost her power, her authority, and her clipboard doesn't seem so tactical anymore. The $1,050 in fines just vanished from my HOA portal. Poof. The neighborhood is different. It's better. Mr. Henderson actually asked me for Ravi's contact information. He and his wife hired him, at a legal 64 decibels, for their 50th wedding anniversary party. It was lovely. Chad, inspired, now runs a boot camp yoga class in the community fitness zone by the septic tank every Saturday. It's horrifying, and it's 100% legal per the bylaws. I can hear him shouting, "Feel the burn in that warrior too, Greg," from my patio. Brenda hates it. She's been seen parked nearby, just fuming. Gus and I actually became friends. He came back over last week. "So," he said, standing on my patio, "you really want this Zen garden? Or was that all, you know?" "Nah, the backhoe was enough," I laughed. "But, Gus, what do you know about installing an outdoor pizza oven? I'm thinking permanent brick structure." Gus got that gold-toothed grin. "Oh, that's gonna need a permit, son. And a foundation. And probably a cement truck. It's gonna be real disruptive." "Gus," I said, "you're hired." It's Saturday morning, 7 a.m. I'm on my back patio. I roll out my yoga mat. It's one of the neon pink ones, a souvenir. I can't say Crestview Meadows is peaceful, and it's definitely not quiet. I hear Mr. Henderson trying to play a Sitar raga on his Spotify, and he's got it cranked. I hear Chad shouting at a group of my neighbors to engage their core. I hear the faint beep, beep, beep of a truck backing up somewhere, and I smile, knowing someone's probably getting a new, unbeige-colored front door. The suburbs still have a sound. But now, it's a little weirder, a little louder, a little more like a community, and a lot less like a khaki prison. I take a deep ujjayi breath. I'm about to start my sun salutation. Across the ditch, I see Brenda come out to get her paper. She's wearing her visor. She sees me. She sees my neon mat. I raise a hand and give her a friendly, harmonious wave. She glares, grabs her paper, and storms back inside. Victory.